G'day, I'm Mark from Self-Sufficient Me, and in this video I'm going to show you a low-cost way of growing chilies or hot peppers in plastic milk bottles. It's not just an utterly great example of recycling and repurposing, it's also so easy you'll be saying, how dare he come up with such a legendary idea? Let's get into it. Well, I'm going to milk this for as much as it's worth because I'm really happy with how this growing chilies in milk bottles turned out. But there were several good and interesting lessons I learnt along the way. So let's start from the beginning. Firstly, we have two big teenage boys and they go through milk like hot butter through a knife. Or should that be the other way around? Regardless, they suck milk down by the gallons, and that's why we have plenty of these milk bottles spare. These are the 3-litre plastic bottles, and I find they're a good size for most plants, being big enough to hold a decent amount of growing medium. I roughly mark out the front of the bottle with a pen from the top, about ½ an inch out from the lid, and then the sides around 1/3 of the way down. Then using a box cutter, I simply cut out the front of the bottle, following the template. Normally I will cut out completely if I'm transplanting seedlings into the bottles. But because I'm sowing seeds, I decided to turn the bottles into mini greenhouses by leaving the top of the cutout attached, like a hinge, so the seeds would be protected from the elements and not dry out as easily during germination. Instead of using my own ingredients as a growing medium, I used a commercial premium grade mix that supposedly had enough nutrients to sustain plants for up to 12 months. That's never true, but a premium mix is more than just a fertilizer. And I've found that this mix I used is pretty good, and when purchased in bulk, it's cost effective as well. You want to pack the potting mix into the container, pressing it down as you go. A good potting mix still won't be too heavy if you do this, but be careful if you're using normal garden soil, for example, or even other cheap mixes, as it might get too compacted and dense, causing root problems such as root rot due to poor drainage and other introduced pests or pathogens. After that, it's time to sow the seeds. Now, plant selection here for chilies is important because you can get all different sizes of pepper plants, and if you pick a pepper plant that is too big for this container, well, you're going to run into all sorts of problems. The main one being that it'll be too big for the container and it just won't grow very well at all. Therefore, I selected a dwarf chili variety called Fire and Ice. Fire and Ice, what a cool name. Speaking of dwarf, what type of milk do you get from a dwarf cow? Condensed. I always like to oversow my seeds to give the best chance that at least one will germinate. And if they all germinate, then I just thin them out later. Cover lightly with some more potting mix, firm down, and then give the container a splash of water before closing down the front cover to lock in the moisture and protect the seeds from pests such as mice digging them up, etc. Then it's just a waiting game for the seeds to hopefully germinate in a week or two. Now, there's another important step that I nearly forgot to demonstrate, and that's ensuring that the bottles have drainage holes in the base so that the containers don't get waterlogged. I use a screwdriver or some other puncture tool and heat the end with a flame. A butane gas burner works excellent. And then poke through 4 small holes, one in each corner of the bottle, slightly up from the base, as this will allow a small amount of water to always pool in the bottom of the container, allowing wicking of water to the root system without being too wet. By the 2-week mark, you should see the seedlings emerge, and at this stage I like to keep them protected and let them grow on for a little longer. Keep monitoring the seedlings over the next week or so for any problems and to see if there are any that are growing stronger than the others in each container. When the stronger seedlings are 2 or 3 inches high, it's time to thin them out to only 1 seedling or plant per bottle, because if you try growing more than 1, they're going to compete for nutrients and water, and both aren't going to grow well. You can discard the seedlings you don't need, or what I like to do is keep some as insurance, just in case the single plants die off for whatever reason, and then I can replace them. Of course, if you have the space, you can always put them elsewhere, or even make more bottles with the leftovers. To help with transplant shock and the root disturbance of me digging around in the milk containers, I like to water in with a seaweed tonic. One brand I use is Seaweed Secrets by Plant Doctor. It's a top product, only sold online by a small family business based on the Gold Coast, right here in Australia. And yes, I have an affiliate deal with them, so full disclosure, but if you buy something from their store, the first time you do, you'll get 20% off and then 10% discount forever after that. There's more details in the description below. From then on, it's just a matter of watching them grow into maturity. I did have one other experiment within the experiment to test out, and that was growing the plant through the lid hole. I wondered if I trimmed the plant and poked the stem through the hole, would it grow more upright and stable? So I did this to one plant just to test it out against the others. There are also a few things to watch out for when you are growing in these smaller containers. As convenient as it is to be able to pick them up like this and walk around with them, it really is fantastic. But particularly for fruiting plants like chilies, they do use a lot of resources to grow well. So firstly, you need to make sure the water is kept up to the plants, especially during hot weather, because these containers will dry out fast and immediately start stressing the plants. On average, I watered plants daily, usually around mid-morning, to ensure they had enough moisture to last throughout a whole hot day. We live in the subtropics here, and you can imagine it gets really hot. Secondly, because you are watering often and there isn't a lot of medium or soil in these bottles, what can happen is the nutrients get washed through faster. Even though this is a premium potting mix and they claim that it should last 12 months of feeding, I found the plants started running out of energy and began to look a little pale and lackluster shortly after developing fruit. Therefore, I decided to give the plants a boost with a liquid fertilizer to pick them up, which it did nicely. Apart from that, I haven't given them any more nutrients, but once I harvest this crop of ripe chilies, the red ones, I'll then give it another feed. I can already see more flowers starting to come out, and an extra feed will help them produce another crop before the season ends. Oh, and as for the plant that grew through the hole, I don't think it made much of a difference to stability or anything like that. It seems to have grown a little taller than some of the others, but you can't put that down to going through the hole. You know, it could have been just the position that it was in, that it grew a little taller than some of the other ones. It might have got shaded out and tried to grow a little taller. Who knows, it might have got more water and nutrients. But so, yeah, it's all academic. Quite frankly, I think putting it through the hole here and trimming the plant was just extra work that was unnecessary. Anyway, let's have a taste test and see what they're like. Pull right out the middle here. Look at these beautiful things. Aren't they gorgeous? So I think they are a hot chili. I can't remember now. I should have had a bit better look at it, shouldn't I? It's starting to dehydrate a little bit, that one. Not as juicy. Maybe I should get a juicy one. Yeah, this one here. But I'm going to harvest all of these anyway. I normally take the seeds out of these things when I'm cooking or eating them. This better not be some really late heat hit. There's just, it's probably a medium. It's not that uncomfortable at all, but you know what? It's nice and tangy. And it's for people who don't like really hot chilies. One thing I would recommend just quickly, I know it's sort of unrelated, but don't steer away from chilies altogether. Get a mild or very mild chili and eat them for the tanginess and the sort of the spice that it adds to the food rather than the heat. For me, I don't like really hot chilies for the sake of the heat. I like chilies in recipes because that adds to the recipe and it brings out the flavours and adds flavour. Let's just try another one in case this one was a fluke. Maybe I'll try a green one. Actually, it's kind of a shame that it's not really hot, because if it was, what I was going to do is run inside, and I wasn't prepared, but off the cuff I was thinking I'll run inside, I'll get a glass of milk and I'll drink that down. Well, that would have ended the video off nicely. No, they're really good. Anyway, fire and ice. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a really red hot chili grown in milk thumbs up, and share the video around, because that really helps my channel out heaps, more than just about anything else. Sorry to speak while I'm eating. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And what did the cow say to the horse that was in her way? Move. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now.